Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get back. I need a motion to come back into session.
Move to come back in session.
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, back in session. Board members, please make sure your mics are on, and everybody, please make sure your phones are off. I believe we didn't have any further questions for Brooke. Right? Thank you, Brooke. Okay, and if we can have the applicant come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Barry Baxter, 117 West Main Street. They don't swear in the attorneys. It's okay. I, along with Josh Clubb, represent the applicant. I would have Mr. Delker and Mr. Hill get sworn if I could, because they're both going to have some testimony.
All right, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
And actually, I'm going to have Mr. Hill not sit down, because I'm going to let him go ahead, and he's got a PowerPoint presentation, and we'll try to address some of those questions that were raised during Brooke's presentation as well.
Thank you. Again, Mike Hill, planner with Land Design and Development, 503 Washburn Avenue, Louisville, 40222. So as mentioned, our request is for 10 lots within platted Independence Park subdivision. Was platted in 2012 or 13, I believe. The remaining lots that have not been developed already as duplex units, there are 12 remaining lots. 10 of the 12 are the subject of today's request for side yard setback of 3 feet on each side. In 2012, when the subdivision was approved by the Planning Commission, it included a series of variances. Lot width variances for all of the lots were granted by the Planning Commission at that time. So that might be why you see the record plat showing such narrow lots, 47.5 feet in many cases, 50 feet in other cases. Also, side yard setback variances were approved for all of the lots to allow the duplex style of development. So there's a 0-foot setback side yard allowed on each lot as it currently exists, and then a 7.5-foot side yard setback allowed on the other side. The product we're proposing is traditional single-family homes. Does not work with duplex type development pattern, 0 lot line configuration. So we've requested variances to allow these very narrow lots to have a home that will fit on them. So two homes are currently under construction. The applicant has multiple layouts that they use and provide. There were two in particular that the single family home, the single car layout fit and worked with those 2 lots in particular. One reason for not putting that home on all of the remaining 12 lots within the subdivision is it's one very narrow floor plan footprint, and we don't want them all to look the same. We want to, as the comprehensive plan speaks to diversity and variety and range of housing types and styles, mass and scale, we want to be able to accommodate that with other types of homes. So the request for the variance on the other 10 lots provides flexibility to do that. This is the area in question. The lots that are subject to the variance request have the yellow star on them. There are 10 in total. As you can see, the duplex units are located here and here and here and down here. There's actually one in this gap also that was built after this picture was taken. So what we're really trying to do is fill in the undeveloped portions with Mr. Delker's product. You can see also on this lot the narrowness of our lots as compared to other adjacent similarly zoned, same zoning category over on Celebration Way, R4. You can tell their lots are significantly wider than the majority of our lots. Also, this picture depicts the variety of housing types and styles in this small vicinity. Not only are there existing duplex units, as I mentioned, there's an apartment complex constructed in this location. Over on Celebration Way, these are all single-family units, but if you look at them, you'll see that several of them are not necessarily duplex units, but they have shared driveways. This one, for example, here, there's one back here. So that kind of illustrates a variety of housing styles that already exist in this vicinity. So we hope that what we're proposing will add to the variety within the neighborhood. This is a zoning map that just further illustrates that all of the properties are zoned similarly, R4, which is a multifamily residential neighborhood that also allows single-family residential. This is our variance exhibit. It was created from the existing record plat of Independence Park subdivision. The yellow dots represent the lots that we're asking for variances for today. Plot plan example, as Brooke mentioned, this is one example of one of the footprints that could potentially work on these 10 lots. It shows that we've got a 3-foot side setback on each side. And there are 2 footprints that fit this model that could be used or chosen. And in a minute, I'll have Billy Delker get up here and speak to the.
Michael, you need to speak up.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed.
All right. That thing doesn't move, does it? Okay. So anyway, I was saying I'll have Billy Delker get up here in a minute to speak about the types of products that could potentially be placed on these lots. Actually, I'll have him do that now. We've got a series of slides that show 2 or 3 different elevations and floor plans. And Billy, would you like to speak to that?
Before you get started, name and address, okay?
Billy Delker, Key Homes, 4751 Fox Run Road, Buckner, Kentucky, 40010. DOELKER. LKER. So as Brooke's already done a good job of presenting the case and Michael's kind of got us up to speed, I'm going to back up just for a second before I go through the slides and if it's okay, and give just a little bit of history as to why we're here and how we got to this point. So this has been actually about a year process to get to this point, which I know you might say, why would it take that long to get to this point with some developed lots? But as many of you know, this is a part of the Apple Patch kind of community in Crestwood. You know, that project has a lot of history to it with the Audi family donating their property to Apple Patch, and that one structure that Brooke showed of the 2-story building, what that property was originally going to be was going to be basically a community full of group homes for disabled adults. Sometime back, actually back over 12 years ago now, Apple Patch, through just a lot of, I guess, trying to be on the cutting edge of wanting to be able to provide more integrated housing within typical residential communities instead of having just one tract of land with 50 residents or whatever living kind of in an institutionalized facility. They started looking to integrate their residents, kind of like Cedar Lake Lodge does as well, within the community. So Apple Patch approached me about a house I had at the time in Crestwood about renting it as they tried to get this model rolling. So my relationship with Apple Patch goes back, over 12 years now, and we were the first ones to do that. So fast forward to where we are today. We had built a lot of the houses in Celebration Park. We actually built some of the houses for Apple Patch that they own as a part of their the residential facilities that they own, and they continue to rent houses for me in the LaGrange area. So they have, I think, about 20 houses kind of residentially now throughout the county that typically they have 3 residents living in. This Independence Park project, when it first got brought through for approval, part of those duplexes that they have, 3 of those 5 duplexes that are built now are owned by Apple Patch, and their residents live in those. And at the time, they had a contract with another builder who had built those homes for them and were going to continue building the duplex product. During that time when they were building those duplexes, the other builder had built one as a for sale product, and that was during the economic downturn recession, where none of us, I have another project myself in Shelby County, none of us could sell the attached products due to a lot of the limitations in financing on the secondary market. And so the building stalled on those duplexes. In fact, they had those rented. He built and ended up renting those 2 units, building one more duplex, continued to have difficulty selling them. So those other 4 units that are there now are actually rented. Apple Patch, as maybe some of you know, was using the Fox Hollow Farm for their day program, for their residents and their clients to use, and that time was coming to an end, and so they've leased space within the Crestwood Station, and they started approaching me about would we buy the remaining 12 lots because they wanted to sell them and use that cash to build out their day program. So that's when we first engaged in a contract with them, and the reason it's kind of taken as long to get to where we are is Apple Patch still is the developer of this particular area as the owner. So I'm just purchased the lots is what I've done, but they didn't have any of their homeowners associations established and how it was all going to interact with Celebration Park and the apartments and that kind of thing. So it's taken some time, just given that it's, they're not a developer in terms of knowing, what I do every day kind of thing. So we were trying to assist them working, and they had to work through their board or whatever to establish their homeowners association and get their maintenance agreements in place with the adjoining property owners. So that's kind of how we've been working at this for some time to get all that in order before I was comfortable closing on the lots. So with that being said, the other thing that was, from a timing standpoint, why this was attractive to us was if you're familiar with a subdivision called Cedar Point Village in Buckner, right on the corner of 146 and Cedar Point Road. That was another similar type project that had been built, started during the recession and stalled. It was all attached patio home units, and it went into foreclosure and sat vacant for, 5 or 6 years. And we were able to buy that out of foreclosure, kind of do this type of a product where we integrated single-family homes in a community that already had existing patio home duplex type product built. And if anybody's been through there, I feel like it turned out very well. And basically, we were able to build and sell 35 homes in right about 2 years, just under 2 years. So this was an opportunity to take those same plans that we were successful with there and that we determined that the Oldham County market was desiring and try to do 12 more of them in Crestwood. So this particular plan happens to be just an idea of a blueprint with an elevation. You can see it kind of fits in with the pictures that Brooke already showed as far as the combination of some brick, stone, and a lot of the fiber cement, hardy siding, no vinyl, but more of a craftsman kind of style home. This just happens to be another one. This is the actual plan of the one plot plan that we showed you. This is the elevation of that home that was showing proposed on lot 12. This is the one-car garage home, which I'll go ahead and address why we went ahead and started on lot 4 and lot 19. We've closed on these lots several months ago, and again, this has been something in the works for some time. We actually already have several reservations from clients where we've just put them in a numbering order right now, where once, if the variance is requested, then we're able to go back to Mr. and Ms. Smith and say, okay, you're first up, what lot, do you want? We know that the success of what we saw in Cedar Point Village, that we had about 60 to 65% of the homes, were 2-car garage homes. We did have this one plan that was a lower price point with a 1-car garage. We felt like there would be a demand for that as well, but didn't want to build 12 of the same style home and then go back to what Apple Patch was trying not to create, or trying to move away from what their initial design was and create this institutionalized looking product where it's a cookie cutter or whatever you want to call it. So we were trying to go ahead and get something going because we thought we'd be building houses 5 or 6 months ago. But it just took longer to work through Apple Patch. So that's why we went ahead and started on lot 4 and 19 and tried to just pick 2 different areas of the available lots, again, so that we can try to integrate and create a nice streetscape and street view with the differing houses. Just a sample of one of the floor plans. The average range of the houses from a square footage standpoint are going to be anywhere from about 1,250 square feet up to one of our plans that would fit, if this variance was approved, could be as big as 2,200 square feet. I think the average square footage, I think we're going to see more of our one-story plans be more popular as opposed to the 1.5 or 2-story, and so I suspect most of them will be in the 1,250 to 1,600 range. Just another floor plan. Again, that's the particular floor plan that we showed as proposed on lot 12. 3-bedroom, 2-car garage home. There's the one-car garage that we've actually already started under construction.
Mr.
And
Delco, let me stop you. Sure. Now you indicated that one car and this plan, and you said you've got a variety of floor plans that are available. So somebody comes in and they say, I want this house or this house, but the one-car garage floor plan, you're pretty well limited to this floor plan if you're going to have a one-car garage.
yeah, this is the only plan that we have that would fit on the lots as they stand today. So the intention of the request for the variance is to allow us to build our other plans, which basically get us up to a 40-foot wide home. All the other plans are 40 feet wide. And that's the idea on a 47.5-foot lot, that it gives us the 3-foot and 3-foot sideline would allow us to accomplish that. And again, these are the exact homes. If anybody is familiar with Cedar Point Village, these are the exact plans that we built there.
And this would be it though, if no variance, they're all going to be this floor plan and they're all going to look the same.
Right. That would be the only plan that we have that would work today.
Just wanted to be clear about that.
So I think these are all pictures that you've already seen, but just, since there is existing homes there, in this case, while it's different than Cedar Point Village, actually, the architecture and the style will blend nicely, I believe, with what already exists on the duplexes. These are some of the adjacent homes in Celebration Park, again, which we built probably 25 or so of those in there. I think that is it, Mike, unless you have anything else you want to add to it. Obviously, we're happy to take questions.
So to clarify then, on 4 and 19, you're telling me that you've started on those because they do meet the setback requirements because you're using the smaller one-car garage floor plan. So you don't need a variance on 4 and 19, frankly.
I don't.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if that confused the process.
No,
Quite
that's
honestly, we were
fine.
just trying to, what we're trying to do is get something going and where we can take advantage of the selling season that we're still in. And again, we've got people that are waiting for us to tell them what lots they can build which plan on.
But you're also saying that all of these lots can accommodate that same floor plan. It's the desire just to not have the institutionalized look and feel and
That's correct.
cookie
Yes.
cutter.
So if I look at Lot 3, for example, it is a narrower, it's built on the cul-de-sac kind of area, it's a narrower lot. So you can still fit what on a lot like Lot 3?
Yeah, that particular lot has an easement, sewer easement that kind of forces that, the setback of that house is gonna have to be a little further back, but that lot, those two particular lots are deep, fairly deep as well. But at the building line, we would still be able to put a 40-foot wide house there.
The question I had earlier for Brooke was about overhangs, because the way I think of it is, if you're telling me 3 foot and 3 foot for combined 6 feet, I couldn't even lay between them because I'm a little over 6 foot tall. So if there's overhangs that come out, if those overhangs were 1.5 feet, you're now 3 feet of your 6 feet, and you literally only have 3 feet between buildings, which causes me to be concerned about fire.
So from a building code standpoint, when you get under 5 feet, you do have to do specific wall construction. So you have to do a 2-hour wall assembly. You can't have windows. I mean, there's a lot of things that you get into if you get under 5 feet from wall to wall. There's a different part of the code that separates what you have to do in your soffit and your overhang. But to your point, or to your question, if we were, because typically the sidelines are set from what your exterior veneer is on your sideline. From the foundation, but our overhangs on the side of these houses will be no more than 1 foot because they're siding on the side. So So technically, from overhang to overhang, if we were maxing it out, which again, we're not quite maxing it out, we're close, but if we were maxing it out, you would be 4 feet from overhang to overhang. And that would only be if you had two 40-foot houses side by side.
Right.
You said something that you ought to clarify too, because you said siding. And I don't think you said anything when you were talking earlier about what the building material is. You're not talking about vinyl, right?
Right. I think I mentioned the fiber cement or the James Hardy siding, if you know what that is.
Based on your proposed building structure, there is no limitations as to windows and things to that effect. Did I hear you correctly on that? Okay.
Right.
These two on the backside, they just by the drawing here, they look a little bit larger. Is that the case, or lots, whatever those
These
are?
two right here, lot 1 and 2.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the actual width on those?
So, lot, number 1 is 82 feet at the curb and 34 feet in the rear. And lot 2 is 56, almost 57 feet at the curb, it looks like, and about a little less than 55 at the rear.
So lot 2 does have a little bit bigger. The problem with lot 1 is you've got that arc of where it joins the Apple Patch Way, or I think that's the name of the road there. So as you go back, you're going to get limited pretty quickly on what the width of the house could be at the rear of the home.
So on lot 4 and 19, what is the setback you have on those?
I don't have the exact plot plan, but I mean, we met the minimum 7.5.
You met the
have
minimum.
Brooke has that information.
7.5.
Mr. Hopkins. I think it's on the building permit.
Yeah.
This one is lot 4, and then there's lot 19. So you can look at that one and then scroll to the next one.
Yeah, it's 8.
They're 8.5 off each side.
7.5's a minimum.
So on lot 4, for example, you already got an 8.5 foot. And so if we granted a variance of lot 3 to only be 3 foot, now you've got 11.5 feet. That seems, that I don't have heartburn over that one. Thank you. And if we go to 19, can you switch to that? That's a 9.5 feet.
That's a
So-
wider lot.
So if lot 20 then was such that you did the 3 foot, you would end up with
12.5.
12.5.
I think the other thing to point out here, lots 19 through 22 are 50 feet wide. At the building lines, lots 3, 11, 12, 13, and 14 are 47.5 feet wide at the building line. I guess we'd have to confirm that on 13 and 14, but I think that's still accurate. But again, this is kind of a different situation for me because I wasn't involved in the original planning stages of this. I don't know why they made some 50 and some 47.5.
Well, but if they were putting a duplex on them with 0, where they had shared wall, the deal is they variance that, and so then they had normal side setbacks on the two sides of them to the other properties, because they put the middle line in these. So if you look at 9 and 10, for example, if that's one of the duplex lines, they on the outside of 9 and the outside of 10, not where the two come together, they had normal kind of setbacks. And so the line in the middle's artificial, if you will, because they built a duplex out of it. So that's where I struggle. I understand like lot 3. I get that. If you've already got a building there with a larger setback on lot 4, that doesn't cause me a problem. But when you talk about 4 feet being between buildings, what it appears to me is that we've asked for a 3-foot variance on everything, but then you say on lot 4, it's bigger, so 3 foot's acceptable in my opinion. If you look at 19 and 20, you say they're wider lots. Do you really need a 3-foot setback, or are you really asking for something less than 3 feet? That's what it's almost like we're grouping these all together when we're not really in need of a 3-foot variance, because it doesn't sound like your intent on 19 and 20 would actually have to require a 3-foot. But on lot 3, you would have to require a 3-foot.
Right. I think the intent of the request was, it's hard to predict and go through and say, we're only going to build this plant on this lot and this plant on that lot to meet market demand. I mean, obviously it's our goal is to, be able to market and build and sell the homes, and we've proven that the demand is there for that on our previous project, and the fact that we already have reservations for this one. But I think you're correct in that, and so instead of coming case by case, our intent was to have the ability to ask for the 3 and 3, and be able to meet the demand of whatever customer's request may be. But when you start looking at it, the fact that we've already chosen 4 and 19, lot 20 is between 20 and 19 is for sure not going to only be 4 feet between, nor is the one side of 22. So really, the only place that could happen in those 4 lots would be between 20 and 21 and 21 and 22. If we had to, we'd have to have 2 41.5-foot plans on those 2 lots, and what I'm showing you is the max width of our plan is 40 feet. I guess we went with 3 feet to be an even number, as opposed to going to 3 foot 9 inches or whatever that would be.
So for example, if you say your max plan is 40 foot wide, if you look at 19, you look at 20, 21, 22, those are all 50-foot lots. So you would have 5 and 5 if you put the largest one. Again, that seems a lot more reasonable of a variance to allow to make this. I know it makes it more complicated to approve something, but in terms of my personal, again, I'm not the entire board, I'm only one vote. Splitting those variances up where they're more specific would cause me to be more likely to approve such a request if we were breaking it down into what we're really asking for on those lots, as opposed to, because if we approve 3 foot, you tell me 40 today, but if we go back and approve 3 foot, you could go and change your plans to widen it clear out.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's 41.1, right? In the largest width is 41. I mean, just so we don't get confused, I think his plan shows the largest width is 41 1-inch. So 4.5.
I appreciate you being
roughly 4.5 as opposed to 5.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm making this more complicated.
No, you're not, Rob.
It's 40 feet, so it's 1 inch bigger, sorry. Yeah.
It's 41.1, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think what he's asking, Billy, is can you live with, say, 4.5 on these 50-foot lots?
Right.
Further questions?
I'm not sure this is the question time, but that's my concern as I think I've tried to express my concern of what we,
I agree.
a variance that's more specific to a lot would possibly make it easier for obtaining approval. That's the way to say it.
What about that one?
Are you fellas double checking your math?
Yes. I mean, if you're looking for me to make an adjustment, I guess.
Let me state what I'm trying to say, sir, is if as the request stands, I have a hard time voting in favor. And so if an adjustment would be made to the request I would be much more likely to try to go along with what you're trying to accomplish. So,
But Rob, you're saying specific to the lots, individual lots.
because in my opinion, with the overhangs being only 4 feet, 4 feet between them, I'm concerned that that's too small for what if I'm looking at the fire safety aspect of it, I'm concerned. I appreciate the fact that the sides are made of the hardy board, but I would have a hard time approving the Quest as it stands. Now, having said that, Mr. Chair, on lot 3, for example, saying that is a 3 foot, approving that as a 3 foot, knowing that the existing structure next to it's going to be 8.5 feet, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
That 3 foot for lot 3.
So 3 and 19, 3 and 20, if we
get
separate those two out, but group the rest together, is that, are those the
Well, I
only
haven't
two?
looked through all the numbers on everything else. I just use those as examples.
I think to your question or point from the fire safety standpoint, I mean, I'm fully aware that I know what the building code is, and that would be something that we obviously would have to make sure that we adhere to the building code and that Mark was okay with that. I mean,
I understand, but suppose this is a variance, and so as a variance, I would not vote for the request as it stands right now.
I have a question. Is there a product in the greater Louisville area or in Oldham County that you can think of that may have properties that sit close like this that may be something we've seen through our travels?
everybody's familiar with Norton Commons, right? I mean, Norton Commons actually has things closer than this. They have a 0 lot line scenario where they may be on the lot line on one side and only 3 feet off on the other. Now and when you get into that, from the building code, they have to have the 2-hour firewall assemblies and that kind of thing, and no windows, or there has to be a certain type of a fire glazing. So if in Norton Commons that we're all have to be familiar with, I would think you've got houses in there that are 3 feet apart from one another.
Thank you.
With wider overhangs than what we're intending to do here. So in some cases in there, I mean, their overhangs are almost touching.
Thank you.
So your intention, just from a question standpoint, your intention was to get all these approved, then you could choose whether you wanted to do a single or a double garage, basically, is what it comes down to.
Exactly. It's hard when you're in the, when we're trying to sell a product, it's hard to take a contingency contract with a customer and say, okay, we'll do it on lot 11, but then then you've got the timeline of waiting 2 months or whatever, from drawing it to getting.
And you didn't want to identify which lots were single or double in your own determination,
I didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into a spot where we could say we could only build the willow plant on this lot, only build the cypress plant on this lot. We wanted to put ourselves in a position to be able to market and sell the homes as as the market demands, and help get this project finished up for Apple Patch. I mean, that's
All right. Further questions for the applicants? Thanks, guys. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the applicant? Opposed? Final statements, guys? Do you all have anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a few things. Mr. Clubb doesn't trust me, so he wrote out proposed motion and findings of fact that he told me I had to hand out. So I can do that, thank you. Certainly I understand Member Houchin's concerns about this. I think that Mr. Delker has fully explained the reasoning behind what he's doing. And there is, the idea here is that we can have a variety of product available as opposed to this one cookie cutter institutional looking thing that would have the 1-car garage on the front of the property. He fully understands that he's going to have to comply with the law. He's going to have to comply with the building code, and he's not going to be allowed to build something that is going to put the public safety at risk. So from that perspective, while I understand what Member Houchin's concerns are, I think that those concerns are things that are going to get addressed by the building inspector and by the code. So from that perspective, we believe that this is a reasonable request that would not in any way limit his ability to develop the property and to give a good variety and appearance of a development and use this in a way that is going to be consistent with the surrounding properties, the R4 other properties, and it's going to integrate well with what they've got in the area. So we'd ask you to make a motion to approve it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Board members, questions for anybody in the audience? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It just came to my mind, originally these were attached units, so they're considered actually like duplexes. So there's a common wall and there's no setback. Given that they're asking for a variance and they don't know on which lot they're going to put which product, I guess my question would be, is there ever a time where they might not fully square the building on the lot? In other words, if there's a 3-foot setback, would they ever push it to one side, creating more space in between some of these? Or do you always just put them squarely in the middle of the lot?
It's a good question, and I would say, I was kind of just looking at that actually, trying to look at all the sidelines, but it's not always in the center of the lot. And in fact, some of these lots, specifically 1, 2, 3, 13, and 14, are not rectangular lots. They have some, some type, well, I guess 2 is. I guess I should say 1, 3, 13, and 14 have some irregularities to them, where the house may have to be put on some type of a skew or shifted closer to one side or the other. That's also going to affect what the ultimate sidelines are going to be. So there could be a case like 13 and 14 would be a good example, where at the very front, if let's just say we had 2 houses that were only 3-foot sidelines, it would be 3 foot at the very front, but as it got to the back, it's going to pie further apart. And I quickly did something. Can I say one other thing while I'm up here, or do you want me to just be quiet?
Go ahead.
I mean, really, I think if you go through the lots, I think between lot 1 and 2, you could end up with 3 and 3. But obviously on the outside of 1 and the outside of 2, you've got common areas. So it only comes into place on the one side, between lot 1 and 2. On lot 3 and 4, you're not going to have the minimum of 6 feet no matter what you do on either one of those lots, because we've already started 4. So 3 is going to be at least 11.5 feet away from whatever we build on lot 3, and you've got 5 that already exist with 7.5 feet. So you've got 15 feet between those. So it's not even going to come into play there at all. Same thing, but 10 exists. So if you're in the street looking at the lot, the left side of that, the right side of that house, you're going to have at least 10.5 feet between those. So you could have the 3 and 3 between 11 and 12, between 12 and 13, and 13 and 14. But as I was saying, on 13 and 14, I think you're only going to have that at the very front of the houses. The way those houses are going to have to sit back to, it's going to get wider as you go back. And then looking at 19, you're not going to have it at all on 19 on either side of 19. Then you potentially could have 3 and 3 between 20 and 21, and 21 and 22. And then on the outside of 22, you've got common areas. So it's only going to potentially come into play on a very few spots.
Thank you. Jim, Brooke, Jim, I guess. Can you talk about the reason for setbacks versus building codes? Building code says if you're going to be at a certain distance, it needs to be a certain type of material used. Mm-hmm. Reason for the setbacks. Speak to the reason for setbacks.
Well, setbacks are a development standard to kind of give, I guess, maybe some uniformity in spacing on a lot. Building codes are very specific to life safety and health issues. Use the duplex as an example. The current existing attached buildings, there's a 0 setback, but that common wall has to be fire rated so that fire doesn't jump between the two units as easily. Obviously, if there's a major blaze, the whole thing is going to go up. But the idea of the building code is life safety versus placement on a lot. Let me think a second if there's something related to in between the buildings. You know, again, that if they are required to have meet building codes because the setbacks are closer together. One of the things that you heard in testimony is fire-rated walls, and they can't have penetration, so you can't have a door or window if the setbacks are too close. So that would be, again, a life safety issue versus a setback question. Is that?
All right, so building codes exist for life safety issues.
Yes.
Setbacks, we have the setbacks dictated by regulations for development, for placement
They're
and
development
general
standards.
character,
Yes.
look and feel,
Yes. Yeah.
Continuity.
continuity.
Yeah.
So if a subdivision or a unit like duplexes, they have the 0 setback.
Correct. But their walls are fire rated for
Building
that life and
codes
safety. Yes.
dictate.
Jim, this whole subdivision has kind of broken the mold for Oldham County, is that correct, based on the idea that it had at its inception and then the duplexes? Do we have any other subdivisions within Oldham County that has duplexes in it, such as this?
We have several, and we call them duplexes, but you know, they were designed as attached 0 lot line, that because of the change in the economy back in 07, 8, 9, and the lending on condominiums, had to come back and get what's called fee simple lot lines. So Mr. Delker said that his project at Cedar Point Road was originally attached, just like in Independence Park. And they went through a rezoning and a blanket variance at the Planning Commission to separate those all into individual lots. The interesting thing about that is the lot line is actually on the wall of those existing attached units. Rivers Landing was another one of those down off 1793 and Rose Island Road, where originally they were going to be attached units. And they went through that whole process, similar to Cedar Point Road, where they were put on fee simple lots. And this one's a little different in that the lot lines are already drawn, so they're not going through a rezoning or change in zoning. It's just simply now they're not going to have attached units.
But this request, this isn't going to modify or alter the character of this particular development based on what we're seeing on the images, is that correct?
I don't believe it is, no.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, what was that question?
I was asking that with the request of the applicant, with this particular neighborhood or this development, was it going to modify or alter the existing characteristics that are in place? And Jim said no to that.
Right. And throughout that whole Apple Patch development, with the exception of Celebration Park, I think Celebration Park is all single-family standalone, but you'll see from the pictures that there are attached and detached units throughout this area. So it does fit the character, in my opinion.
So when you look at what was intended here and approved initially, they had the duplexes. What was the distance from the duplex to the property line when he built a duplex, and then there's a space between that and the next duplex? What was the space between those?
I don't know if it shows it on the plan, but I can look and see.
8.5 feet.
So what she's showing you is the original plan, which is all of them were attached.
Right.
But he's
you
talking
see-
about,
I'm talking about the space
Right in
between
that
one
corner.
duplex to the next.
But again, it's interesting, it's the same question. That's why I asked the question about centering on the lot. If you look at the one she just pointed out right here, you know, because of the shape of the buildings and the lots, they're not square and they're not the same setback. In particular, look at this one. In the front of the building, the setback is much shorter than in the back. So that's why I asked that question, and he had already been looking at that as an answer, because when you don't have lots that are rectangular and you're putting a square or rectangle on it,
Right.
you might have a shorter setback in one of those dimensions. So I think that's really,
So can you zero in on this and to answer the question, because I still don't know the number?
yeah,
No?
it doesn't.
I mean, I can go look up
I think
a
the-
building permit from the ones that are already built, but that
Yeah.
would be the best I could do.
Well, go to the shot with the ones already built, because I think it does show the distance.
But it's not dimensioned. I don't
Yeah, it's
think.
not dimensioned.
Well, not on this shot.
Saying is,
Yeah,
what was the
there's no distance
approved,
here.
what was the
Was-
approved side yard setback on these?
It was 7.5 feet.
It's, yeah, the minimum was 7.5 on one side and the other side is 0.
0, right.
Yeah.
So for
So-
a total of 7.5.
Yeah, so
you got-
between
you got a variance of
duplexes,
7.5 variance.
okay, so that answers my question. Between duplexes, because I understand the duplexes are smaller, but together they're all like one big house, if you will, from an outside setback. It was 15 feet between the duplexes, is what we're saying.
Correct. If I can add one comment, and I think, and I know this is the way, we have to ask for the request, but let's just look at lot 12 or look at lot 9 and 10 since they're built. If those were the minimum 7.5 feet on either side, so then you single out just lot 10, technically you had 0 feet on one side and you had 7.5 on the other. Now, what our request or proposal would be, if you centered a house on that lot, you would have 3 on one side, 3 on the other. So it's only a 1.5 foot difference on lot 10 than what exists today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at these duplexes as one building, because they were built as one building, yes, there's a firewall in the middle. But between duplex to duplex, there was 15 feet between duplex to duplex.
Not necessarily, because they had, because they had a 7.5 and 0, so they could have been closer together, not
the way
necessarily 15
I'm saying from
feet.
duplex to duplex, there was
Yeah,
a 7.5
I
foot and a
understand.
7.5 foot, so that's
But-
15.
But again, not always. Just depends on where they put the building on the lot.
Or more,
Because they had a,
15 or more, because it was 7.5 is what we stated.
No, or
seven
less.
and a half or 0.
Yep.
So they could have been 7.5, and the next one could have been right on the property line, making only 7.5.
Making it only 7.5.
It doesn't mean that they had to have 7.5 and 7.5.
My premise is what you're missing. My premise is between duplex, which is 2 units,
what I'm-
between that duplex and the next 2 units.
That's what I'm talking about.
There's
Assuming,
15.
assuming it's the same, all of it's the same size, same plan.
Well, okay.
All right, board members, any other questions for audience? Okay, I'll close the floor and open it up for discussion. My point, or the setbacks of 7.5 feet versus 3 feet, if it falls within the general character of the area, which I think it does in this case, 3 feet to 4 feet to 5 feet to 6 feet is arbitrary. We're less than the regulation of 7.5 feet. We have a regulation for a reason, 7.5 feet. Anything less than that, we discuss in this board as to why we're doing this. Does it make sense? Is there any way around it, et cetera? But the distance of what that variance could be is somewhat arbitrary. If it fits within the general character of the neighborhood, whether it's 3 feet or 4 feet or 5 feet, as long as it fits in the general character, which I think it does in this case, I'm okay with it. I leave it to building code to address the safety issues. And that's my major concern, is the safety issues. You've got 2 units that are 6 feet apart from each other, 4 feet from the eaves. You've got fire. Can you get a service vehicle in between them? Well, that's not relevant. Building code will address that. What's relevant is the setback, is the variance that's being asked. Does it fall within the general character of the area? And I think the answer is yes. Apple Patch, what they're trying to do here is mixed units. We have duplexes, we've got single families, we've got some with cars, we've got larger homes, smaller homes, trying to address a large base of people. And that's what these mixed units are doing. I would be in favor of this project.
I concur with what you're saying.
When I look at what we've got here, I think that when we go and we approve across the board 3 foot, I think that it is required on a couple of the lots on here. When you look at the other ones, the shape of the lot, what is required. If we approve a 3 foot, even though today the current plan is that it's 40 foot or 41 foot one, we end up with 8 or 9 feet between the two. With the overhangs, it's something less than that, a foot on each side. When we go to a 4 foot between eaves, I'm uncomfortable with that. If I was a firefighter, I wouldn't want to go through there with house after house after house. And if you look at a string of 4, what we have is 11 through 14 and 19 through 22. If you have a string of those to get back between those, if there was a catastrophic event, that is not what I think is in the best scenario for safety. I believe if we look at the size of these lots, so for example, in 19 through 22, if we would do something simple and say approve a 4.5 foot setback, which is what the current testimony is, that we will, well, 4 foot 5 inches, and I guess it's a foot and 1 inch. I have no problem approving with what we're talking about, and it stays within the character, yet it doesn't expand on what the current plan is. If we approve it at 3 foot, frankly, they can walk out of here and create a new plan and make them all 3 foot where they could do that. That's what we would be approving. So with a small modification to some of the lots, I feel like we could get to a different place that would make them just a little bit bigger, which would make them still acceptable to build. I think what they're trying to accomplish is not a bad thing. I'm not against it. I'm against doing a blanket when it's not required. I think we can get away with doing something that would be much, and it would cause me to be able to vote in favor, because as it currently stands, I would have to vote against.
I think it's understandable what they're trying to achieve here. What we don't know, and what they don't know, is who is going to buy 2-car garages and who's going to buy single garages. You know, they may have customers that come in and put all single garages in, and this is really a moot point. That's unlikely. It's also unlikely that every person that comes there is going to want a 2-car garage. So that's really what we don't know. That variance, we don't know. But what we're sort of being forced to do is give a variance for that typical situation where everybody is a 2-car garage. And I don't believe that that's going to happen as well. What maybe our development is saying to us is approve this, even though we all know that it's probably not going to go one way or the other. That's where I have the biggest heartache about all of this. I understand totally what they're going to do here, but I don't like approving something when we know it's probably not going to go that way. It's probably not going to all be 2-car garages, and it's probably not going to be all single-car garages.
Well, but this would be the worst case scenario then.
That would be the worst case scenario.
So if we approve a worst case scenario, it can only get better.
I understand it. I think it does meet the criteria of what's in the area because of the certain circumstance with Apple Patch, and I understand that and support that. I'm really leaning on the fence, but I would probably say I would support it almost reluctantly, but I would support it. So.
Rob, with your concerns, would there be any condition if they were to come back and say, okay, you know, this lot and this lot, we do want the 3-foot setback?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wrote out, if I look at 2019 that they're already building on, they don't need a variance for that at all, because they've already said they're stating it and there's already there. So I don't have a problem giving a variance as I look at the plan that's in front of me, where the one between 19 and 20, I have no problem making that 3 foot, because we know that the other one's already the 7.5 feet. So when I look at this,
But I'm asking if they come back and they say a 3 foot and 3 foot, for what we're looking at right now with the worst case scenario, would you be okay approving if they came back and said between these two lots, I want a 3 foot and 3 foot?
For specific lots.
For specific lot? And if the answer is yes,
No.
then, okay.
I don't see any reason to do that. I don't think the lots require that, not with the current plan. I mean, I look at, so for example, for the side of 20, or it's the side that's towards 19, I could approve a 3 foot, because there's already a 7.5 foot on the other side, so I'm good with that. Between 20, 21, and 22, I don't think that I would be in favor of approving all three of those lots for 3 foot, so that all three of them end up being literally 4 feet between the buildings at the overhang point.
And your reason for that is safety?
It is safety, absolutely. I would, if there was one of those buildings on fire, I would not want to be the person walking between those buildings. And if there's one building after another, they're all close, you know, again, I know that we're talking about worst case scenarios, but I think that's what we have to look at, right?
I agree.
And so,
But there are building codes that allow for that.
Yes.
I understand. But I look at that and say a variance of 5 foot on those lots that are all 50 foot wide. If we would say, change that to 5 foot, 5 foot, 5 foot on those particular lots, I'm all for it. I'm there. I'm with you. Or not 5 foot, 4 foot, 5 inches or whatever it is, because we said it's 41, but you get the point.
But that's, all right.
I-
But
that-
even if they came for individual lots, they're asking for 3 foot, 3 foot. It's a totally different request to ask for, you know, 5 foot, 5 foot. What they're asking for is 3 foot, 3 foot across all of them, but if we're saying, you know, just look at the individual ones.
Yeah. I'm not in favor of doing it as a blanket.
All right. Further discussion.
Larry, my only reason for saying that I would approve it is that I know that it would be built to current fire-rated building codes. That's what sways me to say yes.
I agree.
I don't like it, but that's
I'm in
that's
agreement
what
with
would
you on that.
Make me to
I don't
to-
like it either. I can just see one building catching on fire and jumping to another, but there are building codes that allow and
That
protect
address
against that.
Yeah, and we have to go by what that addresses, I think.
I agree.
So here's my other argument on this. We talk about character of the neighborhood. That's why I go back to when you look at one building next to the other building, there's the larger space. There is not currently 6 feet between those buildings. When you look at the building, the entire building, and I know that's 2 units, there is not. And so to say it's within the same character, guys, I really don't believe it is.
The same character, where I'm going with that, is the mixed units, the mixed style. You've got duplexes, you've got single family, 1 car, 2 car, 3 car. Apartments. You got apartments down at the end. It's
I
a
agree.
mixed unit.
It's a mixed. I agree with that.
As long as it falls within safety, building codes, it's a mixed unit, and that's why I say it falls within general character.
So and I believe within general character of what you just spoke, I agree with that. But we would be approving for buildings to be closer together than anything in there by a lot. It'll be less than 50% of any of the current spacing in front of any of the current buildings. And that's why I also believe that that is out of character. That is out of character.
Based on the plans that the developer was referring to, when we're talking about probability, as you had alluded to earlier, I mean, the probability is kind of the question out there. I think well, of course, you're talking about the propensity of the closeness as well, but when you start adding up and counting how many lots are affected based on what plan a consumer may select to be placed on a particular lot, the numbers of probability continue to decrease. However, what the developer's asking for and the applicant's asking for is that we don't have to keep coming back and having the same conversation moving forward.
I agree. I think there's a way to I agree, we don't want to do 10 cases. Completely agree. But the deal is on this is that I just don't, I agree with doing it in a group. I just don't think that they all have to be the same grouping.
Going back to the building code standards, and somebody before this board sat down and analyzed the building code standards as to the safety, fire separation, things of that nature, and the standards have been set long before we've had this meeting today, I would be inclined to move forward with approval.
Okay. I'm willing to hear a motion.
Find the appropriate paper. Well, I'm going to butcher this up a little bit, but bear with me. Is this the right one? Are we on?
29.
I move that we approve docket OC 18-029 for the side yard setback variances on lots 1 through 4, 11 through 14, and 19 through 22 at Independence Park subdivision, Apple Patch. There has been some conversation as to a couple of lots that have been removed from that, and I want to just make a reference that those lots that were alluded to earlier be removed from that. Based on the testimony we heard earlier, I say that we approve it, given the docket on August the 16th of 2018.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second?
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
It's been approved. Okay, Board Member Pate, would you like to read the last one?
Yes, docket number OC 18030. An application has been filed requesting a road frontage variance for a proposed lot at 1217 Sugar Tree Lane, Crestwood.
All right, last docket of the day. An application has been filed requesting a road frontage variance for a proposed tract of land located at 1217 Sugar Tree Road. The zoning is AG1 agricultural. The land use is residential. The size is just over 16 acres. The tract circled in red is the tract in question today, located off of Carpenter Drive. So Sugar Tree is a private access that is located off of Carpenter Drive. This is an area view showing the existing structures and drives. This is the current zoning of the site. You can see the property in question is zoned AG1. There's AG1 to the north, AG1 and CO1 to the south, east, and west. Site history. On February 18th, 1988, the Oldham County Board of Adjustments granted a variance to create a 40-acre tract, which is known as Tract 3, with 70 feet of road frontage on Mendenhall Circle, which is now known as Sugar Tree Drive. So this is the consolidation plat giving the 40-acre tract 70 feet of frontage on Mendenhall Drive, which is now Sugar Tree Road. On July 20th, 1989, the Oldham County Board of Adjustments granted a variance to split the 40-acre tract into a 16-acre tract, Tract 3A, with 70 feet on road frontage, and a 24-acre tract, which is known as Tract 3, with 0 road frontage. So this was originally one tract, one 40-acre tract. It was split to 3B and Tract 3, and they both gain access from Sugar Tree Drive via an access easement.
So, clarification,
Yeah.
the words say 3A, the visual says 3B, or is that just an error?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. On November 24th, 2004, the Oldham County Board of Adjustments granted a variance to create a 5-acre tract, Tract 3B, with 0 road frontage from the 24-acre tract. So there's 3 divisions at this point. There's Tract A, which was the 6-acre tract, and then 5 acres was divided from the 24-acre tract. So now there's currently 3 tracts gaining access from Sugar Tree Drive. In 2014, a minor plat was approved to increase the lot size from 5 acres to 7.376 acres. And this is just approved at staff review. It doesn't have to go before the Board of Adjustments. It's what we call property line shift. The 30-foot access easement was also extended to the property line of Tract 3. The applicant owns the adjoining Lot 65 of Feibel Farms, which is to the west, and would like to purchase the 5 acres from his neighbor on Sugar Tree Road. The applicant is proposing to carve off 5 acres from the original 16-acre tract that has the only road frontage on Sugar Tree Road, leaving the residual 11 acres with 0 road frontage. So the applicant today lives at 5014. It's a part of Feibel Farm subdivision. They want to purchase this 5-acre tract from 1217 Sugar Tree. Sugar Tree this portion will already have the road frontage variance of 70 feet, but the creation of this tract will require a 0-foot road frontage variance for 1217 if approved. So the required road frontage for a property zoned AG1 2.5 acres or larger is 300 feet. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a road frontage variance of 300 feet for the residual tract of 11 acres. Tracts 3, 3A, and 3B are currently accessed via a 60-foot access easement along the front of Tract A and a 30-foot access easement along the eastern property lines of Tract 3 and 3B. If the variance request is granted, Tract 3A will continue to use the 60-foot and 30-foot access easements, and the proposed 5-acre tract, will use the existing 70 feet of road frontage along Sugar Tree Road. So these 3 tracts will be served by this access easement. And the new 5-acre tract will be served by Sugar Tree Road. The applicant's justification statement states that there will be no change to the existing neighborhood. This is the view from Carpenter Drive and Sugar Tree Drive. This is 5014 Carpenter Drive, which is the applicant's property in Feibel Farms. Just another view of the entrance to the applicant's property. This is the 60-foot access easement. And this is the general location of the proposed 5-acre tract. And just another view of the 60-foot access easement. This is Tract 3B's driveway. And if you look at the aerial on the bottom of your screen, the star shows that the general location where this picture was taken. This is, again, just a 30-foot access easement that provides access to Lot 3 and 3A. And just another view. This is 1219 Sugar Tree Road, which is Tract 3. This is 1217 Sugar Tree Road, which is Lot 3A. And that is circled in red on the aerial map. This is exiting Sugar Tree Road at Carpenter Drive. And so in summary, the applicant is requesting a road frontage variance of The required road frontage is 300 feet. The proposed road frontage is 0 feet, so the variance requested is 300 feet. That's all I have. I can answer any questions you have.
Does 1219 and the property directly south, based on the image as I'm viewing it, do they have the zero variance to get to those two properties that the applicant's requesting?
Yes. If you look at the history. So this was the original division that created the 16-acre tract, the 24-acre tract, which is a part of the property you were just referencing.
Okay.
There was a 70-foot road frontage variance, and then this was given a 0 road frontage variance.
And then moving forward, there was another division created
Yes, the 5-acre tract.
that also had the 0 variance approved as
received a
well.
Yes, a 0 road frontage variance
Thank
in
you.
2004.
Go back, right where you're, yeah,
Yes.
so is that one, where it has track 3, is that the 1219?
Yes, this is 1219.
Okay. All right, go, yeah,
This one does not have a house on it yet, so there's no
Alright.
address. This is 1217 Sugar Tree.
all right, go back to the 2, or forward 2. Yeah, that. And where is the 30-foot on here?
Okay. I'll just make
Yeah,
sure.
right there, there, yep.
Sorry.
That's it.
This, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the
The
access.
blue, that's the 60-foot, the
This
blue
is
is
the
the
30.
30-foot.
Correct.
And the 0 road frontage we're asking for is the 1217.
Yes.
And 1219 already has a 0 road
Correct.
frontage. So, okay. Where's Carpenter?
This is Carpenter.
Okay. So, the access easements can only service, is it 3 houses or 3 lots?
3 tracks, correct.
3 tracks. So the 60-foot track is servicing 2.
If,
What, it was servicing 3 until they put that 30-foot one in, correct? Or no, maybe it wasn't.
if you were to not approve the 5-acre tract, which is highlighted in yellow,
Yeah,
the 30-foot access would still have served 3 tracks.
yeah, okay, all right, there, thank you, that answered.
The new
got it.
track will be accessed from Sugar Tree Road.
Still the same, it's just now we need a 0 road frontage on the back one.
Yes, there will be no more tracks, no extra tracks serviced from the 30-foot access easement.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Brooke?
Just to make sure I understand, 5014 is on Carpenter.
Yes,
The parcel in yellow would be added to 5014, therefore there's no additional access being made to. Am I understanding, do I hear you
the
correctly?
applicant is, so this is the applicant's home.
That's the way I understand it.
They want to purchase this yellow
Yes.
portion from 1217. They are not going to consolidate these lots.
Okay,
They want them to remain separate. I'll let the applicant explain in detail why, but it's basically related to this tract is a part of Feibel Farms, which you can't, their deed restrictions prohibit
I see.
the addition of this lot because of access issues. So they want this lot to remain separate. But the creation of this lot is not necessitating the need for a new access given because they already have access off of Sugar Tree Drive.
okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Brooke? Okay, thanks. We can have the applicant. Oh, raise your right hand, be sworn in,
All right, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
and name and address.
My name is Richard Klapik. My address is 5014 Carpenter Drive, Crestwood. Yes, excuse me, it's K-L-A, P as in Paul, H-E-K-E.
Okay.
Brooke pretty much said it all, thank you. Good presentation. We've long enjoyed the view. The property in question that we're trying to buy is 50 foot from our house. And it's been nice over the years, and we've always been desirous of owning the property, so this was our chance. Originally, we thought that it was required to be combined with our property, but our attorney and confirmed by the title insurance company that it would, they'd have to take exception because of the Fable Farm deed restrictions preventing access through Fable Farms to another house or property. So after talking with the attorney and planning and zoning folks, they said that they thought it would be that we could record it separately on its own right, and that's kind of what we're here today to look at.
Okay. Questions? I've got one. The one that that's asking for the zero road frontage. How is it going to be serviced?
Everything sort of stays the same. It's access to the same access road, private access road off of Sugar Tree, or it is Sugar Tree, I should say.
So you're buying the road frontage part of that tract.
Yes, sir.
Is he going to go through your property? Where's the driveway today to get to the back?
Where the blue is.
Where the blue is? The third, okay.
It goes along the red there.
Okay.
And then hangs a right at the blue. You
Okay.
can see the drive.
Okay, yeah.
So your plans for this property?
Don't have anything yet. We've talked about a couple things. She'd like another barn and maybe a turnaround, but I understand just from talking briefly about it with planning and zoning that there's some variance possibly required because there would need to be a structure on it first. So we've talked literally very little about that part of it.
You have no plans for commercial activity off this property?
No, sir.
No development plans?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Who owns 2017?
You mean 1217?
1217.
Sandy Reed.
Okay. Brooke, I'm just a little confused why Sandy isn't the applicant?
I believe she's signed the application. He is the applicant because he's the one that wants to purchase the application, the
Yeah,
property.
but it's 1217 that's asking for the zero frontage.
Yeah.
She signed it.
Yeah, she signed
okay.
it.
All right, good enough.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Actually, I'll call you forward here shortly, but, okay. Any other questions for Richard?
Same question.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the applicant? Those opposed? All right, could I go ahead and get you to come forward, please? Just to get it on record.
I was going to observe. I wasn't going to say anything.
Well, I apologize. If you
All
can,
right, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
and your name and address, please?
Sandra Sexton Reed, 1217 Sugar Tree Road, Crestwood.
Okay, Sandra, I just wanted to get it on record. You own the property that's asking for the zero road frontage, and
Yes.
and you're okay with the proposal before us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sandra. Okay.
Good, I think that's appropriate, Larry.
Yeah, I do too.
Thank you.
Richard, do you have anything else? Any final statements or anything? Okay. The board members, questions for anybody else in the audience?
I'm good.
Okay, I'll close the floor, open it up for general discussion.
Nothing really changes here that anybody's going to see. It just changes who has access or control over that property that's been basically unimproved for the longest period of time. I have no issue with this.
Based on the testimony today, I have no problem with it and would approve.
I concur with that.
All right. Ready to take a motion?
Move to approve OC-18-030 based on the testimony of the history of the private road, other properties being serviced by this private road. They also have zero road frontage. The testimony that there's no plans to do anything, current plans to do anything with the property being transferred, and the fact that you've clarified who the applicant is and who is getting the variance. Move to approve because it will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, alter the essential character, cause any hazard or nuisance, and is not does not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. The conditions of approval is the variance shall only apply to the application considered at the August 16th, 2018 Oldham County Board of Adjustments public hearing, and that a minor plat application and survey be submitted to staff for review and approval.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's been approved. Okay, minutes for July. You guys received copies of them? Any amendments?
Larry, I do have a adjustment here on page 11. Under Jean Crady, it says that is 75 years old and has been in her home. Her is a him.
Oh, sorry.
Jean is a gentleman, so
Where was this at?
Page 11 down at the bottom.
that's the only one I saw personally.
It's been in his home.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, anything else? Can I get a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Minutes approved. Any other business? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Mike's off.